Well, all my gamer friends, I don't normally do reviews of games. This isn't a game review channel, but I felt compelled after just finishing Hellblade 2 Senua's saga, and I was pretty amazed by the level of fidelity and visuals, and it's just the most incredible game I've ever seen visually. And up to this point, perhaps the best looking game ever made so far. But I don't normally do reviews. There's been a lot of controversy online because a lot of people are giving it kind of crappy scores based on things that I don't think should count right now just because of how good this looks. But I'm going to get into all of that after the intro. This game is highly rated in my mind just from how incredibly stunning it looks. As you can see right here, right now, this is earlier in the game, like about 10-15 minutes in. I can see a lot of people, I can understand a lot of people's complaints about something like it's a walking simulator and the combat and the puzzles are way too easy. And normally things like that would maybe bother me, or gameplay that's a little bit too rudimentary. But in this case, to me, I feel like a lot of reviewers are kind of missing the point. It's not so much a game as it's an experience. That's how I look at it. There's a lot of reviews where they just judged it on the fact that the combat or puzzles were too easy, and I'm personally, I think a dumb way to completely review a game. Dock it a lot of points. One review that really got on my nerves was Kind of Funny Games with Greg and Blessing. The obvious Sony fans giving it a 6.5. And then Paris, Lily, and Mike, Snowbike Mike, the man, everyone loves him. Mike gave it a 9, and Paris gave it an 8 or an 8.5. They're the Xbox guys, and they gave it a higher rating, but I still think that their rating makes more sense. Like, they're giving it a proper rating. But because Greg and Blessing are Sony ponies, they're gonna just automatically dock it like 2 points anyways, just because they're bitches. Like, they don't want to give it an honest review. They're gonna automatically just give it less points because it's too, the puzzles are too easy, and sometimes, yeah, they are, and sometimes it assists you in like helping to like lock on to certain things. That's how you solve puzzles, is you focus on certain images, and the game definitely guides you in that way. But I didn't care. Normally, sometimes things like that I could care about, but in this case, I just don't. Like, it's such a visually stunning game, and the voice acting is incredible. The actress, Marina, I feel like her name's going to be mentioned a lot more. Her performance was incredible. Like, she has to win Best Actor for game at the Game Awards, or whatever awards that they give out for game acting in every category and every website or contest they have. She's a shoo-in. I can't think of any other game that's come out this year or is going to come out that's going to have a performance as good as her. She was absolutely amazing. And I hope that this shines more light on her. Maybe she'll get more work as a actress, not just a gaming kind of actress. But the combat is pretty simple, but I feel like it doesn't need to be because it's so in your face. As you can see, like, the combat is so face. And as you can see, the combat is like so visceral. That's like the best way to explain it. Like, she's flailing. She's not like a master with the sword. She's stumbling. She's like screaming, scared. You can hear the terror in her voice because she's not really a warrior. I'll admit that I never played the first game, Senua's Sacrifice. I played a bit of it, but the opening of it with all the voices, for some reason, gave me anxiety. I was like, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't like the way it made me feel. And it's in this game too, but it's totally different. That could have just been, they recommend that you listen to the game through headphones. I tried Bluetooth headphones. I don't know, I feel like it's not the same because there's a slight delay with the Bluetooth. So that's too bad, but I'll try it again because the audio does sound a way different in your headphones. It moves around, like the way they recorded it was incredible. Like, this definitely should be winning awards for audio. I really hope that the Game Awards doesn't be a bunch of assholes and just not give it the acknowledgement it deserves. The Xbox tax is real. A lot of people say, yeah, I feel like Xbox just gets unfairly dumped on for whatever reason. The media, reviewers just have something against Xbox, or maybe just Microsoft themselves. But even IGN gave it an 8. Though a part of me makes it feel like it's kind of like a making up for their shitty review of Starfield, because they gave Starfield a 7. I know there's a lot of controversy for that, because a lot of people thought it was just, you don't like Xbox very much review. Like, I feel like a lot of sites just automatically dock a point or two just because. And there's some sites on Metacritic, people are really looking at Metacritic a lot out of all the aggregate websites, even though there's more. Metacritic specifically, people are like looking at reviews of the first game and comparing it with the same reviewer, and they gave the first game like a 90, and then they gave this game way less, like a 70, or there was even a review that gave it like a 45, which is just absolutely asinine. I mean, over here on Meta, as you can see, it has an 81, and a lot of people were thinking it would be way higher. I still think that's pretty low. That's based on critic reviews, of which there's 92. Based on over 1,300 reviews on user score, and it's even lower, 7.5, the reviews can be pretty up and down. But if you just look at actually the latest, these are all their critic reviews. Like, there's 100, 100, 100, 100. Look at this. The first top few are like all giving it the highest possible score. It's really, really high at most points, but then I feel like certain reviews, like IGN specifically, gets more. It's almost like their scoring adds more to the overall aggregate than an other site would, which isn't the point of Metacritic. Like, it's supposed to be kind of a mathematical. See right there, IGN 80 or 8 out of 10. Someone like IGN would get more acknowledgement for their review than another site that's smaller compared to them. Yeah, it's doing it all in order. So you go down here, and Metro's been getting a lot of crap for their 50, a joyless slog of barely interactive entertainment, and a muddled betray of mental illness that just so happens to have the best graphics ever on a video game console. Like, I am definitely a graphics whore, and to me it helps more. Like, that's why I don't like playing 8-bit or 16-bit looking games unless it's an actual retro game. But the most lowest score is Game Critics, and they gave it a 45, and that's insane. A 45 is insane. Until now, I've liked each new Ninja Theory game more than the last. I can never deny the craft on display. Given that this is their first release since the Microsoft acquisition, yes, the first game, they weren't part of Microsoft yet. So this is the first game since Microsoft took over, meaning that they could have access to a lot more money, and it shows for sure. I credit Hellblade 2 for not feeling compromised by corporate interest, but that only makes it more baffling that it lacks any real vision that I was able to discern. It's not an offensively bad experience, because why in the F would it be? Yet I can only offer one of the most damning criticisms imaginable. I have no idea why it was made. By Mike Susky. I wonder if this guy's getting dumped on right now for his ridiculously low review. This game is getting unfairly judged by a lot of people, I think. I also wanted to point out that all this footage you're seeing is footage that I captured myself through the Xbox Series X. Yes, also I am playing on Series X, not on PC. So even on PC, I can't even imagine how it looks. But on the Series X, this is definitely the first truly next-gen game, because I feel like even though the system released in 2020, November 2020, and it's only now, almost 4 years later, it's finally showing off what it could do. And I feel like it's a little unfortunate because Xbox is already talking about their next console, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But I mean, it just looks absolutely phenomenal. The way the enemies kind of come at you, and it's also just not perfect. You don't have a perfect dodge or like a parry. You just kind of do it. Senua is like, the way she fights, she's like terrified and she's screaming. She's screaming to like give herself more power in a way. Parts of the game where I was just kind of playing with my mouth open, like, I can't believe how good this looks. Plus, I took so many captures. I don't typically just constantly capture a game, but I have my controller set up, Xbox controller, where I can just hit the share button and it starts the recording, and then I can hit it again and turn it off, and then I hold it to do screenshots. And I was doing that constantly in this game, not using photo mode, which you could, and it probably looks even better. I was just all in game. None of this is enhanced in any way. This is just how the game looks, like straight out. There's no enhancements. I didn't change any of the settings, and it looks unstinking believable. So I think people unfairly judged this game. Maybe a lot of reviewers based it on the gameplay, and they gave it a lower review than before. They gave it a lower review than they would perhaps comparing it to the first Senua game, which I never played, so I can't really compare it to that. A lot of people say the combat hasn't changed, the puzzles are still perhaps easier than the first game. I mean, these are more captures that I just took while I was playing. I was constantly pressing the middle share button on the Xbox where it's in a perfect spot. That's just not something that I would do normally. Look at the quality and detail of this shot of Senua's face, and the game would constantly switch between a cutscene and the game, but it was seamless. So sometimes I didn't know if I was watching a cutscene because you're pushing forward a lot. Because yeah, it does have that a walking simulator, which people may or may not like. I generally wouldn't play a game that's like that, and there's some moments where you're just kind of walking longer than you need to be. But then that gets a little boring, and even with the run button on, she doesn't move that fast. And sometimes her run is slower than. Sometimes her run is slower or faster. It changes the speed. On the controller, the run is the LB button, which is an unusual button for run because most games it's almost always the L thumbstick, which I prefer. But you can toggle it on and off in an option. Instead of holding it, you can just click it and she'll run. But there are other characters in the game, and their names are like Norse kind of names that I can't pronounce because I'm a dumb white person. The exterior goal of the game and for Senua is to destroy the giants. But at the same time, there's a lot of people saying that all of this is in her head. And who knows, maybe the Senua character is someone who lives in the actual regular world and she's imagining all of this. And some people are even suggesting that maybe the third game, I believe it's been announced that Ninja Theory is making another game, but I can't remember if it is the third game because it should be a trilogy. I feel like if you're going to make a second game, you got to make a third game. But some are suggesting that the entire thing is in her head, and maybe the third game will reveal that Senua is just a person, a woman in the regular world who has mental issues. Because yeah, this is what the game is about. Above all, is the mental health of Senua. The voices in her head are constantly talking to her, and the good voice and the bad voice. One voice is telling her that she can't do it and give up, and the other voice is like, yes, you can do it. But occasionally the voices kind of tell you too much in a way, like they're suggesting, all right, if the game thinks you're stuck for a moment, it'll say, hey, go try to light that torch. But things like that didn't bother me. In this game, certain things that maybe would bother me in other games, the game is just so absolutely incredibly amazing to look at. This is probably the only time where I've been like, the visuals are so incredible that nothing else really matters, and I don't want to judge it on all of that. And other people could. Maybe they're saying, just because it's pretty, it doesn't mean it deserves a good rating. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 just because of how, like I said, it's not a game. It's an experience. You're seeing the most incredible visuals that's ever been put on a game up until now. The fighting and the voice acting and like the mocap is incredible as well. When there's cutscenes and they're like talking to each other, you can see the emotion. Like you can always see the emotion on Senua's face. Alright, well I ran out of my own footage because I took a ton of videos. I was just constantly clicking the share button. So now I'm just playing some footage from YouTube. But as you can see, it's still incredible. At this moment right now, I'm kind of like captured by this game and just how absolutely incredible it looks. It even compelled me to review the game, which, like I said, is not something that my channel is for. I'm not here to review games, I'm here to just report on and review video game adaptation shows and movies. It is just so good, and look, as you can see it, this footage could be taken from a PC because on Xbox it runs at a capped 30 FPS, which is something that would normally bother me, but because the game is so cinematic and movies in general are at like 29.97 frames anyways, so it works for this because of how cinematic this game is. Like, it's a cinematic experience. Like I said, it's an experience. It's not a game, it's an experience. And it's like nothing I've ever played in my entire life. And I've been playing games for like 40 years. Essentially, I've been playing games since the days of Atari. And there's never been another more incredibly looking, beautiful game ever made up until this point. And a new benchmark has been set. I feel like it's definitely too late in this generation. Like, it's 2024. The Series X and the PlayStation 5 came out in 2020, so I'm just kind of like, why did it take them this long to get to this level? Unreal Engine 5, which is what they use. But it is also exciting to see what could come from more games from Xbox, because a lot of people are already talking about the next Gears game, Gears of War 6, and what the Coalition can do with Unreal Engine 5 could be pretty amazing. If you've seen the Matrix demo that they did a few years ago, it was kind of incredible. Even a few years ago, it still looks amazing. I mean, even right now, I'm kind of just pausing to look at it. Even Digital Foundry themselves, who can kind of be pretty critical, and maybe even they throw a little bit of the Xbox tax in, but they couldn't deny the visuals of this game. Like, I kind of feel like you just can't visually. For me, visuals alone, it's like a 9, but it gets one more point for everything else, which I thought was great. The combat, sure, maybe it was a little too simple, but the way that Senua fights when she's fighting is so, like, she's kind of desperate to stay alive. It's just a new benchmark that is now the standard. I'm a graphics whore. For everything else, the presentation in general, the audio design is incredible. It's definitely going to win awards for that. Marina, that's her name. She's going to win an awards. She's definitely going to win some best acting in a game awards. I can't imagine any other game coming out this year that's going to have acting on the level of this. Not just her, but across the board. Like, you're looking at this right now, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. And that's how the game looks all the time. There's no cutscenes that look higher quality. You can't skip the cutscenes, which sometimes I would do because I'm impatient, but this is the first time I've kind of methodically played through a game just to experience it. And there's a few times where, yeah, it's getting a little slow. I run as often as I can. Just looking at it when I'm playing it, I'm kind of like in awe. A couple of times I just straight up was laughing at how incredible it looked. But sometimes the fighting can get a little long, like in the end. Like the last battle of the game, which I'm not going to spoil, I'm not here to spoil anything. It started getting a little long, and how often Senua was getting hit with a sword, you'd think she would just die. And yeah, a couple times I died. Not too often, because the combat isn't that hard. You basically just keep hacking at them, and then eventually you get this medallion that kind of like this stun mode, I think you would call it, where it kind of stuns the enemy for a minute, and then you can slash at them. But the battles, just played a clip with the audio on, just to hear how Senua is like when she's in battle. She's screaming. She's like, you can hear this fear in her voice, where she's literally fighting for her life. And I just love the whole not clean, perfectly, like she's like stumbling away to like avoid the hits, and she gets knocked down a few times, as you can see. When you get to the point where you're knocked down and the character's over you and it slows down, you just keep pressing A and she gets out of the way. So that never is an issue. You're never worried like, oh god, I'm gonna die. Very, very small gripe. There really isn't anything to gripe about for me personally in this game. So my official score for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is 10. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. And yeah, I'm an Xbox player. I'm not totally anti-Sony, but they do so many things that bother me, and the Sony community is so toxic. Like, they just dump on Xbox just simply to do it. This game is like visually nothing I've ever seen. And the audio and the voice acting, the mocap, the incredible visceral moments of fighting, and the fact there's no UI. There's no UI at all. Some people could be bothered by the black bars, but they purposely want it to be a cinematic experience, so the black bars didn't bother me. This game, ultimately, for me, is a 10. It's going to win awards. I'm hoping it's going to get nominated for Game of the Year, but I could see it not winning just because people are bitches and they don't want to give Xbox the respect they deserve. I mean, I guess the big show of the year is the Game Awards that happens in December. Keighley is such a Sony bitch that I could see him not giving this game the respect it deserves, because he'd rather interview Kojima for 20 minutes instead of giving the winner of the year their due and their time and their moment in the spotlight to thank and do their speech. That's me ranting about what he did last year and to the Baldur's Gate 3 people who he didn't give them enough time and it was ridiculous. So that's my ultimate review of Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. I wasn't really expecting it to be my game of the year, but for right now it is. And I can't imagine anything else coming out this year that I'm going to give a 10 to or say is the game of the year for me. That's my review. I would love for anyone watching this to let me know what you think below. You would give it as a rating. And also, if you're watching this and you're not subbing and you're not liking, what is wrong with you? But for the love of Senua, like and subscribe, like and share, and above all else, keep gaming.